So another round of media hit pieces against YouTube has finally hit us, and today I am talking about the AIN, or the Alternative Influencer Network study that has spawned two hit pieces, one from The Guardian and another from Mother Jones, which is an interview with some person called Becca, who is actually, coincidentally, the writer of that said report. Now, what is this report? Well, to put it really briefly, this report is a look into the political side of YouTube. Now, for some reason, funnily enough, it neglects to mention, apart from one person, the far left, centre left version of YouTube. Now, do bear in mind, those on the centre left are grouped in with the right, as is always going to be the case, because these people who are writing these reports are just so far left that they think anybody to the right of Stalin is a fascist or a conservative. But still, they've ignored, the huge community of people who aren't on the right, who aren't in the centre, but are fully on the left. And they're also ignoring these people who also actually kind of support people like Sargon of Akkad, people like Jordan Peterson. They may not agree with everything, but they agree with things that the far left have gone too far and things like that. And these people are leftists. A good example of that would be Grim Jim. He is pretty much a Marxist. I think he said so, or a socialist. Yeah, he is an anti-SJW. And you'll see types like that on Lefty Poll. A lot of people don't like SJWs, even old school Marxists. I know, it's mad, but that is a thing. But those people are ignored, and we're all grouped together with the alt-right, because this report is full of glaring inaccuracies and also has this hilarious spider diagram where it tries to show the 6 degrees of separation between Joe Rogan and Richard Spencer. Yes, because guilt by association is an academic thing. Guilt by association, using fallacies, that is the mark of excellent investigation, guys. Because Joe Rogan, who has spoken to Sargon of Akkad, who has also spoken to loads of other right-wing YouTubers, eventually being able to speak to Richard Spencer means that we're all white nationalists and we're all fascists and alt-righters, and that's why we need to be stopped. Because lo and behold, a lot of these people make money off of this. Isn't that wrong? And so, guys, I guess really this report has been made to try and strengthen their hold on YouTube and to make YouTube tackle us. Now, they've already done something similar to a lot of communities, like the gun channels, those law-abiding citizens who actually have done nothing wrong. But now they are turning their attention onto the people who can change minds. Now, they're trying to frame it in a think of the children or the young people frame, but really, people in political YouTube aren't trying to target young people. Rather, they're just trying to get their opinions out there and possibly change the opinions of just normal people in general. That could be from any age, from 18 to 90, for example, if a 90-year-old even uses YouTube. So let's take a look at The Guardian. That website, the Pulitzer Prize-winning Guardian. YouTube's alternative influence network breeds right-wing radicalization, reports finds. Now, a little point about the Alternative Influence Network, which is what the report calls political YouTube, or rather the alt-right / conservative / centre-left / classical liberal, whatever you want to call it side. Some people would call it the skeptics, or some people would call it the atheist community or anything like that. I actually kind of like that name. That makes sense. It's a bit catch-all, but you know what? That is what we are. We are alternative, and I don't know if we necessarily influence people to the extent that they claim, but yeah, we are definitely an alternative regardless of what ideology we happen to be in. And I would also group the feminists and the socialists, brocialists, whatever you want to call them, people who follow ContraPoints, people like that, also within that frame, because they're not using mainstream means to get their point across. It's a good word. It's a good phrase. I like that. I think we should co-opt it. But anyway, on to the article. YouTube provides a breeding ground for far-right radicalization, where people interested in conservative and libertarian ideas are quickly exposed to white nationalist ones, according to a report from Data and Society. Now, there is such a thing as the libertarian alt-right pipeline, or at least it's a theory, but most people are not going to the alt-right. In fact, the alt-right is declining, but the problem is hit pieces like this, investigations, quote-unquote, like from Data and Society, is probably going to be a good thing for the alt-right, because when these hit pieces and these smear pieces and these fear-mongering articles are being pumped out, they're getting free publicity. And now the fact remains is, really, it's more a breeding ground for people who are SJWs or just normal to become more libertarian or, hey, even liberal. They ignore that actual liberals within the classical sense of the word are also going to end up becoming more conservative or more libertarian, or entrenching their views of this is what is liberal, this is what is not. Basically individualists, non-authoritarians, the lower left quadrant, shall we say. But continuing, although YouTube's recommendation algorithms are partly to blame, the problem is fundamentally linked to social network of political influences on the platform, and how, like other YouTube influencers, they invite one another onto their shows. Ah yes, again, guilt by association. Basically this article is just kind of copying what the report actually said. The report describes an alternative influence network of about 65 scholars, media pundits and internet celebrities promoting a range of right-wing political positions, from mainstream conservatism to overt white nationalism. Yes, Joe Rogan, Destiny, Sargon of Akkad are conservatives. Bunty King is a conservative now, guys. Chris Reagan is a conservative. Crowton T, of all people. Mundane Matt. James Damore. Jeff Holiday. Mouthy Buddha is considered a conservative/fascist who hasn't made political content in a while and was never part of that ideology to begin with, and has made several critical remarks about the alt-right. In fact, for some reason, they've even included Mr. Nihilist, 40-year-old schoolboy Mr. Metica in there. You know, the guy who hasn't done a single piece of political commentary in how many weeks? How many months, even? And Andy Warski, a man who they claim to have a lot of reach, has lost all that reach within the span of a couple of months, if you look at his recent content. This is the level of investigation that we're dealing with, people. This is the level of journalism that The Guardian is giving us, guys. Isn't it great? They are broadly united by their reactionary position and opposition to feminism, social justice, and left-wing politics, and present themselves as an underdog alternative to the mainstream media. Well, some people there are left-wing, like Destiny, and is also a feminist, and like social justice, while others are more into the more traditional left-wing things that aren't to do with any of that. But we already know that, guys. Discussing images of the alt-right or white supremacism often conjures a sense of the dark corners of the internet, states the report. In fact, much extremist content is happening front and centre, easily accessible on platforms like YouTube, publicly endorsed by well-resourced individuals and interfacing directly with mainstream culture. Some of these people are not well-resourced. I mean, in that spiderweb, yes, there are people from the Daily Wire and the Rebel Media, and yeah, those are well-resourced, just about, but pale in comparison to CNN, NBC News. People that barely have enough money to get these startups going are somehow got this wide reach that can reach out to young people. I mean, YouTube is actually nowadays more likely to promote CNN and other types of news networks like that than they are people like us. Like, some of us aren't doing so well anymore because of the algorithm changes, yet they're blaming the YouTube algorithm for people who are already big. It just shows how late to the game these people are and how out of touch they actually are. At the more mainstream end of the network are people such as Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, self-described members of the intellectual dark web. And now I'm not sure if Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro have called themselves members of the intellectual dark web, and I don't think Dave Rubin has called himself that. He's made mention of that term, but he doesn't call himself that. At the other end are white nationalists, such as Richard Spencer and Colin Robertson, aka millennial thick-ass woes. I like how they're trying to draw that, yeah, these people are connected. Even though Dave Rubin isn't right-wing, he's a centrist at this point now, and Jordan Peterson is barely right-wing. While the mainstream members of the group typically don't subscribe to the alt-right or white nationalist ideals, they do host those who do under very friendly terms. Shock, horror. These people have debates and are cordial with these people, rather than punching them or being horrible to them. Wow, that means that, you know, these people they're okay with them just saying whatever they want, and they're not definitely trying not to tackle these views. It's not like Jordan Peterson says that without me, there would be more fascists around, you know? They have these conversations where really openly racist ideas are getting thrown around as if they are perfectly normal, said Rebecca Lewis, the author of the report. This amplifies these ideas. Yeah, because the alt-right did really well after Richard Spencer's debate with Sargon. Yeah, they totally became a massive threat to the world. Yeah. Okay. She cites the example of Dave Rubin hosting Canadian right-wing influencer Stefan Molyneux, who openly promotes scientific racism and advocates for the men's rights movement. Yeah, he is a race realist advocate. So what? Dave Rubin talking to him doesn't mean that he's throwing these ideas around as normal. Like, he isn't. He's just talking to him. So when Nick Griffin went on Question Time years ago, was that the BBC saying that his racist ideology, his fascist ideology was normal? No. And did the BNP suddenly rise in popularity? No, it sank like a stone and is no longer around anymore. During the show, Rubin asked Molyneux to describe his position on the link between race and IQ, where he cites research that has shown different races have different average IQ test results. Molyneux believes this shows that intelligence of different races is genetic rather than environmental, something that has been shown time and time again to be bad science. Although Rubin doesn't endorse these views, he doesn't challenge them in any substantive way and appears to take his words at face value. Rubin, is there evidence it's genetic? Molyneux, yes. Genetic in what regard? I mean, if we took the brain of a 25-year-old black man and the brain of a 25-year-old white man, what is it that they are doing that? They are different sizes. Yeah? Yeah. Rubin isn't actually taking him at face value. He's asking questions, probing him, trying to get him to explain his position, which may or may not be to Molyneux's advantage. Like, he can easily hang himself by his own words there. That's what Rubin tends to do. That is a perfectly fine thing to do. He's only interviewing him. It's not a debate, it's an interview show. And when they do have debates, well, look at Rubin's face. This type of scientific racism has been used to justify racial hierarchies and oppression for centuries, states the report. By letting him speak without providing a legitimate and robust counter-argument, Rubin provides a free platform for white supremacist ideology on his channel. And when he puts on leftists, is he doing the exact same thing? Oh no, it's fine when he does that, isn't it? Again, this line of argument doesn't hold true, because he's had debates on there, he's from TUIT, he's gay. Why would he want them to... it doesn't matter, guys. Members of the network frequently use a live debate format, with multiple speakers arguing for hours on topics such as race, immigration, and feminism. This format is particularly challenging to moderate, relying on viewers reporting objectionable content during the live stream. Okay, what? Reporting objectionable content during the live stream? What does that mean? And yeah, debates full of 10 people is incredibly hard to moderate. It's better if it's 1 or 2 people. YouTube profits from these live debates through the super chat feature, which allows users to pay to have their comments highlighted during the stream, even if a channel fails to meet YouTube's advertiser-friendly content guidelines. As a BuzzFeed investigation in May highlighted, BuzzFeed is a source, guys. BuzzFeed is a source. That's all I need to say. These paid-for comments are frequently used to spread hate speech. This has nothing to do with what is actually being said necessarily, but more trying to target people's financial livelihoods to stop them from saying these things. It doesn't matter if they're wrong. It doesn't matter if they're right. These are things that go counter to The Guardian and their ideology, and because they are the people in charge. And they're trying to stop alternative media from becoming bigger, regardless if it's left-wing, regardless if it's right-wing, it seems. Because if they're grouping Destiny in there, I don't know if that's because they think he is that bad or if he is now a pariah from talking to these people. I don't know if it's stupidity, but it's pretty clear that you don't have to be on the right in order to get into their bad books, it seems. They just want to crush alternative platforms. That is what it is. They're trying to force YouTube to censor. And knowing YouTube, if it's monetary, they're going to kowtow. One of the challenges for YouTube is how careful the more extreme members of the network are to avoid breaking the platform's community guidelines. Even the most open white nationalists know how to stay just within the terms of service. You almost never hear them using racial slurs. They couch the language in a way that obscures its violent overtones, said Lewis. Yeah, and there's actual black nationalists and social justice warriors saying pretty nasty things about white people and straight people and even black people who aren't the same as them, who don't think the same. They call them coons. They called them Uncle Toms, but apparently that's okay to you guys, isn't it? Because it's the right kind of racism. They also employ persuasive influencer marketing techniques to increase their audiences and establish an alternative to mainstream news through memes, cross-promotion and search engine optimization. Now you can see why Article 13 had to pass, guys. Now you can see why these people are trying to put a stranglehold on YouTube and the internet, because they don't like the fact that it's free for now and can be used to make ideas and to spread ideas that they don't like, regardless of the severity and the extremity of it. Search queries like the terms social justice, liberal, and intersectionality will yield results from members on the network because they frequently use these terms in their titles of their videos. These are the kinds of techniques used by brands and makeup vloggers to capture people's attention, only this time, the product is political ideology. You see, all they're doing is kind of criticising themselves. Like they're saying, they're using all these techniques. Well, it's not my fault that people who are against social justice are better at playing the internet game than their counterparts. It's not my fault we're not boomers, alright? YouTube monetizes influence for everyone, regardless of how harmful their belief systems are. The platform and its parent company have allowed racist, misogynist, and harassing content to remain online, and in many cases, to generate advertising revenue, as long as it does not explicitly include slurs, the report notes. Well, that's not true, because the algorithm will and has demonetized all these channels, everybody. And it doesn't just attack us, it attacks the gun channels, it attacks the makeup channels, the gay channels, the comedy channels, the animation channels. If it hits everybody, they're already stopping people from making a lot of money on here. There are some subjects that are completely unmonetizable unless you're a mainstream media outlet. These people are doing this because they like the content, not necessarily because they want to make money out of it. This may have been true in 2016, but it's not true since 2017 and 2018. Those golden years of people making money off of controversial content, it's over. That's not going to be a thing for many years. Again, they're out of touch, they don't know what they're talking about. YouTube is an open platform where anyone can choose to post videos to a global audience subject to our community guidelines, which we enforce rigorously, said a YouTube spokeswoman. Yeah, but it's not very open if you just make videos on the topic of weapons, not in a way to show people how to kill, but just the history, the technique. No, you can't make money off that, you will be shut down. Because people don't like you for political reasons. Yeah, it's not so open as they would like you to think, and they do enforce these guidelines, just not very rigorously. Daddy05 was making millions for YouTube. I know I'm exaggerating, but they were making YouTuber quite a lot of money, and it took them months to stop their abusive content. YouTube only cares if you make them money, and to be fair, political YouTube doesn't make them a lot of money, which is why it's easier for us to be demonetized than Daddy05, for example, or maybe those Spider-Man and Nelsa videos. And then in a classic case of contradiction, the company has tightened the rules for which channels have access to monetization features and deployed machine learning technology to identify hate speech and comment features, the spokeswoman added. If a user is caught sending abusive super chats, the revenue received will be donated to charity instead of being split between YouTube and the channel's creator. Well, there you go, they're already doing what you want them to do, Guardian. Why this hit piece? Why this investigation, I wonder? Is it more a case that you're trying to go after the people in the centre who are actually more palatable, who may have a better chance than the alt-right in destroying your power base, changing the status quo to something better? Lewis argues that YouTube and other platforms' content moderation policies need to factor in the influence of an account rather than just the content. When an anonymous account with 4 followers tweets a conspiracy, it's very different from when Alex Jones posts the exact same conspiracy theory, she notes. Yet an Alex Jones only talks to his own audience. He preaches to the choir. And when he gets censored, when he gets removed from the internet in such a public way, he's going to get more followers, isn't he? If you left him alone to preach to his choir and let him do what he wants in the open, people would ignore him, as most people have done for years, yet they grew tenfold after that. Your ideas of trying to censor people based on influence is going to backfire, because these people are going to get even more influential through the Barbra Streisand effect. Sorry, but that's just what's going to happen, and it's not surprising that you haven't learnt from this. YouTube issues awards to accounts when the content creator reaches 100,000, 1 million, or 10 million subscribers. At these milestones, the company also reviews the account to make sure they have not infringed copyright or violated YouTube's community guidelines. Yeah, they didn't used to, and that's nothing more than just some nice hoity-toity thing. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't mean that YouTube likes you. Almost anybody can get that, and they don't have to. The vast majority of YouTube's moderation decisions are based on the content of videos, which is as it should be, not the influence. It shouldn't really matter. The exception to this rule is foreign terrorists. In these cases, YouTube refers to a list of individuals and organisations supplied by the government and will block them from creating channels, regardless of whether those channels violate YouTube's community standards. And to be fair, I don't think any people would argue with that, so why are you bringing that up? Lewis proposes that YouTube should consider not only reviewing the content of the channels identified in the report, but the people they host and what their guests say. So IP bans become more like Twitter. So basically what Lewis proposes is that they should remove people like Alex Jones, because these people are good at what they do. These people have a reach, and they're trying to quash that. Rather than tackle us through demonetization, which seems to have largely failed in many ways, they're just advocating straight up now to just remove us because of who we are, rather than what we say. Although what we say is a factor. YouTube is choosing to continue the content of these people who are delivering really harmful messages. Yeah, and so do you. You have a harmful message. You are advocating for 1984. You are advocating for a more authoritarian world. But apparently that's nowhere near as bad as Sargon saying that we should have free speech, free association, free expression, things like that. Nope. No, apparently what he said is worse. Okay, it would be an opportune time to make their standards stricter for people that have that level of influence. But the thing is, you're attacking the people that are already big, but you get rid of them, then there's a power vacuum. And this is me just talking about the best case scenario. That will mean that smaller channels will simply rise up and take their place, or they will go somewhere else, these bigger channels, and continue what they're doing elsewhere. And Sargon of Akkad, you basically have already tried to tackle him at the worst possible moment, where he's literally making the transition into real life in politics. Sorry, but he has a political party behind him now. Good luck. And that's that. That's the Guardian hit piece. Now, there is also the Mother Jones article, which interviews the writer of the report, but I feel like maybe I should go through that in another video or a live stream. Basically, as I said before in the video, and I'll summarise it as this. This is nothing more than an attempt to force YouTube to censor people further, only this time, they've realised that they can't go for the money. They've realised that perhaps that's failed, that these people who they hope would disappear because the money's not there in it anymore, are still doing it because, lo and behold, they have a passion for what they say and what they want to achieve. So they're just telling YouTube, censor them. Just go after these people because these are individuals that we don't like. Go after their influence. This couldn't be more clear-cut if you tried. Now, I don't know how this is going to make YouTube change their tune because, really, if you think about it, going for the money kind of worked. It made YouTube panic. I don't see how this is going to make YouTube panic. And if the words from that spokeswoman has anything to go by, then YouTube isn't just going to censor somebody unless they have some pressure from the rest of the tech community, like what happened with Alex Jones. And that would also require the mainstream media. Now, The Guardian has already started something, Mother Jones has already started something, but again, it would require more outlets like the BBC, CNN, places like that in order to really get the ball going, and it would be really down to whether or not YouTube, for once, can stick to their supposed principles, which they won't, because, well, they're no different. It's the mainstream media. They're run by the same types of people. But hey, we only hope, okay guys? So, an out-of-touch, inaccurate report that groups people even within their own side, like Destiny, as white nationalists, or at the very least, people who have influence who could turn people into white nationalists through 6 degrees of separation. What more can be said? It's embarrassing, but it might actually make YouTube more censorious because they panic over these things. But we can only hope that they just ignore it. So anyway, till next time guys, it's been your boy, and I'll see you later.